Polling high. New tonight on our news live at 7. The Davis administration gets an above-average rating in a public domain survey. This as the opposition leader says the nation's second city still in need of a revival. Plus, police probing an emergency landing on Abaco, the plane seen in bushes near Spring City. All passengers survive. Then in our news at 7:30, a check on the prices at the pump as the cost of fuel climbs above $6 a gallon. Our news live at 7 starts right now. Welcome to our news live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Candino Knowles. The results are in, and the Davis administration has an above-average approval rating as government prepares to celebrate 2 years in office. That's according to a local survey by a local market research and strategy firm. Bethany McDermott has the numbers in this report.
In this case, we just asked two simple questions about the Prime Minister's approval rating and his government's approval rating, and we wanted to let people know, thank you for participating in surveys. They do mean something.
That's the president of Public Domain, Amwale Raming, detailing the results of a recent poll that shows the Davis administration has a relatively high approval rating. The survey found that 23% said they strongly approve and 42% said they somewhat approve. 9% somewhat disapprove and 9% strongly disapprove, while 16% said they don't know. When asked if they approve of the government's job, 21% said they strongly approve and 43% said they somewhat approve. 10% said they somewhat disapprove and 11% said they strongly disapprove. 16% said they don't know.
The numbers dialed by a computer, and then when someone answers, it gets shipped to an interviewer, and an interviewer asks the questions. The important thing about that is what we call random selection. So everything, the sample size is interesting, but what's more important is that every Bahamian has an equal opportunity of being surveyed.
Now, given the country's population of just under 600,000 people, Raming was asked if a sample size of just under 600,000 is a good representation of how Bahamians feel.
In North America, they'll do a sample size of 1,000 to represent 350 million. So again, the sample size is important, and for me, I've been doing this a long time. As long as the sample is above 400, the only thing that changes is the margin of error. So if I do a lower sample, I'll have a higher margin of error.
We also asked them to respond to concerns that not enough Bahamians took part in the survey to give a proper depiction of how the country feels.
Random sampling is way more important than any other methodology, because what you want to make sure is you don't exclude somebody, a particular group of people, from participating in your survey because you did a survey downtown on Bay Street and my 94-year-old grandmother will never be a part of your survey. So that's why we use the NXXs and the random digit dial. And so each and every segment has an opportunity to answer the survey.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
All right, thanks a lot, Bethany. Well, coming up in our news at 7:30, the Free National Movement and opposition weighing in on these results. Now, speaking of the opposition, the leader says there's still lots of work to be done on Grand Bahama. He's saying that there's not been much progress following Hurricane Dorian. Our Italia Hall has more.
There is a need not just for the present hotel to be sold, and unfortunately, the period of time between Dorian and the time we were kicked out of office, the government has now found out that they have been in office for that length of time and more and have not been able to execute a sale.
Leader of the opposition and Morocco City MP Michael Pintard has been critical of the Davis administration since taking office. But his criticism continues 2 years into Davis's term over the state of Grand Bahama and the implications for his constituency. Pintard calling it critical for government to come to the table and meet with Grand Bahama Port Authority, industrial companies, licensees, and the opposition about the way forward.
So we can come up with a common strategy on how to market Grand Bahama on multiple levels, tourism being one of them.
Pintard sharing the concerns of residents on the edge about the current economic situation on the island.
They do not want to move off the island, but they have seen thousands of Grand Bahamians who have moved off the island, whether it is to New Providence, to Exuma or Abaco, and some to Canada and the United States because they are looking for economic opportunity. We have to create a path pathway for Bahamians who wish to come home after graduating from university, that they believe that there are fair opportunities of them getting in, and that they should be able to get in on the merit of their qualifications and less because of which political party that they belong to.
And with a depressed economy and no real signs of growth, Pintard says welfare support remains critical to the survival of hundreds of residents. But he says getting help from the Department of Social Services has not been easy.
There are persons who are struggling, who have applied, and for the last 2 years have not been able to get a reasonable response from the Department of Social Services. And this is not a function of the staff. This is a function of policymakers not fixing the dysfunction in the system that prevents monies from coming from NASA on a timely basis.
All right, 5 people safe following an emergency crash landing in Abaco yesterday. Police say just after 4 p.m., the pilot of a Piper aircraft registration number N106MR, owned by Inter Island Charters, was on its way to Marsh Harbor from Eleuthera with 4 passengers on board when the plane started experiencing engine failure. As a result, the pilot crash-landed the plane in bushes near Spring City, south of the Marsh Harbor Airport. No one was injured in the incident. Investigations are continuing. And 2 men from Harbour Island behind bars after being accused of sex crimes against children on that island. Prosecutors say 39-year-old William Lewis and 25-year-old Alonzo Pinder had unlawful sexual intercourse with 2 different 15-year-old girls. Lewis is accused of having sex with a teenage girl on August 15th and 29th, while Pinder is accused of having sex with an underage girl between June and July. Neither girl could legally consent to the sexual acts because they're under 16. Lewis and Pinder not asked to plead when they appeared before Senior Magistrate Callan Vogt Evans. Bail was denied. They're expected back in court on January 25th next year to be indicted. But whether you like it or not, what happens in Parliament impacts every facet of your life. It's a message to women from Dame Janet Bostwick, who is about to be featured in a documentary for her work in politics. Speaking to the importance of female representation in Parliament, Dame Janet says if you don't participate, the decisions will be made for you.
Everything that impacts your life is decided or discussed in that Parliament. Everything. And who should make decisions about these things? Who should be able to influence those decisions? Should it be only men who will sit there and make decisions of the most important matters which concern you, your development, your children's future? I think not. I think not. It is important for us to have our say, and to have our say about anything which ultimately impacts the way we live.
All right, we've got more from Dame Janet coming up in our news at 7:30. As we said, she's set to be featured in an international documentary about influential women in the Americas who've paved the way for female leaders in politics. Be sure and stay tuned for that. Well, much more to get to tonight, but for now, we turn things over to meteorologist Greg Thompson for your first look at temperatures. And Greg, I know we've been tracking Hurricane Lee all weekend. There was a lot of sporadic activity. First, it was 3, and then it was a Category 3, and then it was downgraded to Category 2, then up to a 3 again.
Actually, it was a 4.
It was a 4 first, but moving into the weekend, though. Moving into the weekend, it was a Category 3, dropped to 4, climbed up again, and now...
Eye-wall replacement was the reasoning for that, and of course it did encounter some slight shear.
Sure.
So that's the reason why it's been fluctuating, but it's back up to a 3, and it's anticipated to become a 4 once again within the next 24 hours, but that will be short-lived, then back to a 3, and as it moves towards the north, it's going to weaken as it approaches the Bermuda area. But yeah, you thought we would have a hurricane out there. We had some very nice conditions across the area right now because the high-pressure system is in charge. And that's providing us with very, very lovely conditions on the outside. Few clouds, temperatures still slightly warm, 86 degrees. The winds are now out of the northeast. That's because Lee is to the east of us, and we're starting to get that northeast to easterly component. And your feels like temperature is at 94 degrees. Temperatures around the islands tonight, right now, it's 85 in Freeport and in Marsh Harbor, Abaco. Pick up 87 in Alistown, Bimini. 86 is in Nicholstown and Great Harbor. 85 over in Governor's Harbor. In the Central Bahamas, 86 Kemps Bay, pick up 84 in Arthurstown, Cat Island, Georgetown, and Deadman's Key. You guys are 85. Copenhagen, San Salvador, 86. And into the southeast Bahamas, temperatures pretty much comfortable there as well. 86 in Duncantown, Ragged Island, and Providenciales. We pick up more 85s in Colonel Hill, Crooked Island, Delectable Bay, and Abrahams Bay. Matthew Townley now with Deep South. You guys are 86 at this hour. Of course, we still are tracking Lee. Lee is a Category 3 with 115 mile-per-hour winds, and it's continuing on that west-northwest track. We expect it to make that turn more towards the northwest within the next day or two, and by the middle of the week, that system is going to start heading towards the north. Not really going to impact us much directly, but we are still anticipating some, well, not anticipating because it's beginning to affect the southeastern Bahamas right now, but some very large swells expected for the next several days. So beaching and boating is going to become hazardous. So we're asking you boaters to stay out of the water. And you beachgoers, please don't get into the water because it's going to get very rough starting tomorrow, and that should continue through Thursday. So make sure you stay safe. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us. A look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, the Teachers Union chief not having it over comments by the former education minister who addressed shortages. And it's still important to know your status. We take a look at a recent healthcare initiative on Grand Bahama. And later, it was a normal flight until the plane U-turned. A first-hand account on the day 2 planes hit the World Trade Center in New York City. When our news returns.
Are you or a loved one?
From inside what was once a lagoon?
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. So you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just throw squeeze there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Parliament is prorogued, ending the first legislative session of the Davis administration. It's been 2 years since the PLP-1 elections, ushering in a new government. On October 4th, a brand new session of Parliament begins with a new Governor General, a new speech from the throne, and with it a blueprint for a new legislative agenda. Stay with Our News Nightly and follow ournews.bs for analysis and insight, and most of all, what's important to you.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners, it's essential to understand how technology can affect operational efficiencies. Modern communication relies on technology, and your customer service depends on communication. With proper tools like our fixed and mobile services, we help you stay connected. For solutions that work, ask the experts. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions.
Still to come on our news, the Teachers Union. All right, we apologize for that technical difficulty there, but Bahamas Union of Teachers President Belinda Wilson, she's criticizing former Education Minister Jeff Lloyd tonight, saying some of his recent comments on the state of education should be taken with a, quote, grain of sand, end quote. Last week, Lloyd shared the Bahamas went to Cuba too late to source teachers and suggested the use of proper consultants, such as himself, to assist in the vetting process.
Jeff Lloyd has that he is not in the chair. He has no credibility to speak on any education issues because he had an opportunity to fix the problems and he squandered his opportunity. So, Mr. Lloyd, sit small. Your time has passed.
All right, her comments coming as she revealed concerns last week over a number of Cuban teachers who were not well versed in the English language, causing learning issues in the classroom. Despite this, Wilson says the Education Ministry has denied the union's concerns and is now putting officials on notice.
I await until Wednesday for the Ministry of Education to respond to me on the investigation that they have asked them to conduct. And I must also say that I do have names of the teachers and the schools and the subjects that they are here to teach. So I don't want to go public with that information. So I impress upon the Ministry of Education to ensure that they complete the investigation and they give a response to the Bahamas Union of Teachers.
And from education to healthcare, as the 8 Mile Rock Clinic on Grand Bahama, partnering with the local Kiwanis Club recently for a health education fair for children and adults, providing immunizations, dental, hypertension and diabetes screening, as well as rapid HIV testing. Nurse Michelle writes, stressing it's still important to know your status, reassuring residents the rapid HIV testing is confidential.
Before the test is done, we do HIV pre-test counseling, and we answer any questions, any concerns that they have, and we give them reassurance and support. We also encouraging not only for the client who's having it done, today get their partners, tell everybody in the community to come, because we also do it on Thursdays as well during our family planning sessions. It is free, and we encourage them the importance that everybody needs to know their HIV status.
And here's Kiwanis Club of 8 Mile Rock President Barry Smith on community response.
I think this year is an annual event, and I think it's important because many children of this particular community don't have the ability and finances to get health screenings.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as rescuers race against time to find survivors after a massive earthquake in Morocco. Plus, it's the 22nd anniversary of 9/11. Families remember the attack like it was yesterday. And another FTX executive pleads guilty in the company's fraud case. More from his court hearing when our news returns.
In what we do at Best Brew, it really doesn't end when the customer purchases our product. We offer specialty coffee, tea, spices, and brewing equipment. We do a lot of our orders via website. We actually have the mobile service and the phone service and the internet. So having business in a box really kind of brought everything together for us and helps us to be able to provide the customer services that we pride ourselves on.
Don't spend hours sending individual messages to your customers. Use SMS messaging instead. With Cable Bahamas Business Solutions SMS messaging, you can send personalized messages to hundreds or even thousands of recipients instantly. It's quick, effortless, and cost-effective. Plus, it ensures that your messages are delivered directly to your customers' cellular phones, guaranteeing higher engagement. Save time and boost your outreach with SMS bulk messaging. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions at 601-8911 in Nassau or 602-8811 in the Family Islands.
A digital wallet that allows merchants and consumers to conduct transactions seamlessly on their cell phones. Our cashless solution is safe, easy, convenient, and designed to make life easier for all. And without Cable Bahamas Business Solutions, it would be impossible to do what we do every day.
I always envisioned Evolve being a cashless business long before COVID-19. Once I found Canoe, I realized they were the perfect fit for my company.
This is our news. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. Rescuers in Morocco raced against time on Monday to find survivors in the rubble more than 48 hours after its deadliest earthquake in more than 6 decades. More than 2,100 people were killed in the disaster. Search teams from Spain and Britain joining the efforts to find survivors of that 6.8 magnitude quake that struck late Friday, 45 miles southwest of Marrakesh. Many survivors spent a third night outside, their homes destroyed or rendered unsafe. A U.S. flag was unfurled on the side of the Pentagon on Monday to mark the 22nd anniversary of the September 11th attack. Nearly 3,000 people were killed, including more than 2,600 at the World Trade Center, 125 at the Pentagon, and 265 on the 4 planes involved. Families crying today as they remembered their loved ones outside the 9/11 Memorial and Museum in New York.
It is 22 years, and this is the way I still feel like yesterday. It's hard. It's my second child. She's a darling of my eyes. She's everything and more.
So this day is still significant in my life. I have not come complacent in knowing that This tragedy has caused a lot of pain, not only to me and my family, but to others who have experienced this horrible, horrible thing.
A former executive at now bankrupt cryptocurrency exchange FTX pleaded guilty on Thursday to making tens of millions of dollars in unlawful campaign donations to boost causes supported by his boss. Gabe Singer reports.
Ryan Salem is the latest executive of the now bankrupt cryptocurrency platform FTX to plead guilty ahead of a trial of its founder, Sam Bankman-Fried. On Thursday, Salem admitted to criminal charges of campaign finance law in making tens of millions of dollars of unlawful donations to boost causes supported by his boss, Bankman-Fried. Prosecutors say Salem, Bankman-Fried, and former FTX engineering chief Nishad Singh used the company's customer funds to donate to political candidates supporting crypto-friendly legislation. They also say Salem told a confidant that Bankman-Fried hoped political donations would, quote, weed out anti-crypto Democratic and Republican lawmakers, meaning defeat them in elections. Salem gave more than $24 million to Republican candidates and causes in the 2022 election cycle, according to Federal Election Commission data, making him a top donor that year. He said in court that the money he used was recorded as loans from FTX's sister company, the hedge fund Alameda Research, but he did not intend to pay them back. At a Thursday hearing before a district judge in Manhattan, the 30-year-old pled guilty to one count of conspiracy to make unlawful political contributions and one count of conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money transmitting business. After the hearing, Salem's lawyer said, quote, Ryan looks forward to putting this chapter behind him and moving forward with his life. As part of his plea deal, Salem agreed to forfeit more than $1.5 billion, though prosecutors agreed to accept a combination of cash and assets.
And now to the region, as the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States says students from that area currently studying in Morocco have all been accounted for. In a statement, the OECS said the embassies of Eastern Caribbean states have been in touch with all nationals in Morocco. OECS Chairman and Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Terence Drew, joined global leaders in sending condolences to the people of Morocco following the devastating earthquake. And finally, the Press Association of Jamaica, condemning the attack on the offices of Nationwide News Network, NNN, calling it reprehensible and cowardly. Police say a lone gunman on a motorcycle opened fire in the parking lot of the company's compound on Friday. Several employees were in the parking lot at the time of the attack, but no one was hurt. The PAJ said it stands in solidarity with NNN and the broader journalism community and maintained attacks on the media would not deter journalists from their duty to inform the public and ensure truth prevails. Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was September 11. Then in our news at 7:30, a teen is allegedly sexually assaulted on a cruise ship. Police investigate. And a spotlight on Dame Janet Bostwick. Find out the documentary that's exploring her life and legacy when our news returns.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. So you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just those squeeze there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Parliament is prorogued, ending the first legislative session of the Davis administration. It's been 2 years since the PLP-1 elections, ushering in a new government. On October 4th, a brand new session of Parliament begins with a new Governor General, a new speech from the throne, and with it a blueprint for a new legislative agenda. Stay with Our News Nightly and follow ournews.bs for analysis and insight, and most of all, what's important to you.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners, it's essential to understand how technology can affect operational efficiencies. Modern communication relies on technology, and your customer service depends on communication. With proper tools like our fixed and mobile services, we help you stay connected. For solutions that work, ask the experts. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions.
In what we do at Best Brew, it really doesn't end when the customer purchases our product. We offer specialty coffee, tea, spices, and brewing equipment. We do a lot of our orders via web.
Welcome back to our news. It's time now to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was September 11th. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history in 1928, Clement T. Maynard Jr. was born in Nassau. Maynard was a politician, activist, and medical technologist. He held numerous ministerial posts in the Pindling administration from 1967 to 1992 and served as the country's second deputy prime minister. He also helped to advance the country's tourism product in the 1980s. As the longest-serving Minister of Tourism, he spearheaded innovative programs to diversify the country's tourism product and to strengthen the industry. Such initiatives included the introduction of Gumbe Summer, Bahama Host, and the slogan, "It's Better in the Bahamas." Maynard suffered a stroke in 2008 and had been hospitalized before he died on October 2, 2009. He was 81. Maynard was given a state funeral on October 14th that year. Then September 11th, 2020. Then opposition leader Philip Davis returned home from the United States 3 weeks after he was airlifted for medical treatment.
Things are extremely tough and we remain a nation in crisis. We are all deeply concerned that the country is not headed in the right direction. And we are going to need to summon the best and brightest amongst us of this country to overcome these difficult times. So it's back to work. I will have a lot more to say in the coming days.
In 2021, during drive-by rallies in Cat Island and San Salvador, one day after voting in the advance poll, then Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis told supporters the Free National Movement had won.
I've been reliably informed that in the advance poll, the FNM has taken the advance polls. Wave has been a poor MP for you. He is tired. When he had power as the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Works, he could have done much for you, yet he did little.
And finally, in 2022, was the proclamation of a new monarch. Members of the Senate, House of Assembly, Privy Council, and law enforcement gathering for the official delivery of the proclamation of a new British and Commonwealth monarch, former Prime Minister and senior member of the Privy Council, Hubert Ingram. Since the shocking events of September 11th were televised globally and left much of the world reeling in horror, the event that has since changed the way we travel left many airline passengers detoured and displaced. Tonight, our Jamila Mizik shares the story of one of them.
September 11th, 2001 seemed like an ordinary day for 19-year-old university student Chris Leonard when he boarded his flight home from London to Miami.
It was a perfectly normal flight until we were about an hour outside of New York when the plane did a complete U-turn. And the captain came on and said that nothing was wrong with the plane. We just had to make a diversion to St. John in Newfoundland.
Little did he know the detour was due to a terrorist attack, an event we know today as 9/11. Terrorists linked to the Islamic extremist group Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 commercial passenger planes and carried out suicide attacks against targets in the United States. 2 of the planes were flown into the World Trade Center in New York City, and a 3rd plane hit the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C. The tragic event led to the disruption of all commercial flights to and from America, and all civil aircraft were ordered to land at the nearest airport as soon as possible.
We didn't find out until we landed. The captain didn't tell us anything. And once we landed, we were on the runway for about 12 to 15 hours before we were able to deboard because there were so many planes in this tiny airport. We were one of the last planes to get deboarded, so we were given a pillow and a blanket and taken to a convention center where we slept on the floor, a few hundred of us, for 5 days.
Almost 3,000 people were killed in the 9/11 terrorist attacks, including the 19 Al-Qaeda terrorists. Leonard says the news brought a feeling of heaviness and uncertainty.
It's very shocking, very unexpected. And there was a huge sense of sadness. I guess everyone else experienced that for the innocent people that lost their lives.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
All right, thanks a lot for that, Jamila. To watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, you can visit ournews.bs. It's going to do it for us in News at 7. Joining us now is Italia Hall with the latest headlines. Italia?
Yes, Ken, 9/11. Just watching that story with Jamila, it brings back so much memories.
For sure.
I was only in grade 4, but sometimes it feels as if it was just yesterday, I
think I was in 8th grade at the time, but it was interesting to see that perspective from folks that weren't necessarily involved in the actual incident, but how it impacted travel around the world. And again, just to even hear that was
things changed so much since then, but such is life. Thanks so much, Ken. Police investigate a teen allegedly sexually assaulted on a cruise ship, and in an Our News exclusive on the life of Dame Janet Bostwick. Here are your latest headlines. A hefty increase first tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. Gas prices on the rise once again. Tonight, a local retailer sharing the reason. Also, another view. Hear why the chairman of the F&M says the Davis administration has been a disaster. Plus, the tourism minister says Grand Bahama International Airport is on the right track. We'll tell you all about it. And later, an influential woman, Dame Janet Bostwick, is set to be featured in a new documentary focusing on women in politics. Our Marlena Leonard has the exclusive when Our News Live at 7:30 returns.
Doctors Hospital's reimagined primary care. We have invested to improve our health system, ensuring that accessible, affordable, world-class clinical care is closer to you. Your relationship with a primary care provider shapes the foundation of your overall health. Our new, modern primary care facilities are where critical diagnosis and true personalized treatment begin. With locations across New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Exuma, we invite you to experience the Doctors Hospital difference. Book your next appointment at clinics.doctorshos.com.
Collect verse access is as easy as grab a collect, scan a collect. Open your camera app, focus on the QR code, and click the link that appears. You own your collect verse experience. Take selfies, join the cultural referendum, and share with your friends. See content from local chefs, Olympic athletes, and cultural icons. Collect is proud to be 50. Grab a collect, scan a collect. Get in the collect verse today.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just those trees there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Parliament is prorogued, ending the first legislative session of the Davis administration. It's been 2 years since the PLP-1 elections, ushering in a new government. On October 4th, a brand new session of Parliament begins with a new Governor General, a new speech from the throne, and with it a blueprint for a new legislative agenda. Stay with Our News Nightly and follow ournews.bs for analysis and insight.
Welcome to Our News and thank you for joining us. I'm Italia Hall. As of late, gas prices continue to soar in the capital as prices at 3 major stations rise well above the $6 mark. Well, our Joshua Williams spoke with a local retailer on the reason behind the rise at the pumps.
Pay attention the next time you go to the gas pump. You may be shocked to discover the cost per gallon continues to increase. Gas prices at the 3 major gas retailers, Shell, Esso, and Rubis, is more than $6 per gallon, an increase of about 15 cents when compared to prices a few weeks ago. Vice President of the Bahamas Petroleum Retailers Association, Vasco Bastian, says while unfortunate, it's a situation we cannot control.
This is a global trend. I mean, all around the world, price of gas is going up at the pumps, and there's a direct correlation as the reduction. I mean, the reduction on output by Saudi Arabia and Russia. They pull back their production, the price of gas goes up. And so it's out of the control of retailers, wholesalers in Nassau.
Bastian says it's not the first time major increases have happened.
A year ago, gas in the Bahamas was around between $7.15 and $7.39.
between the various different brands. Going back to, say, $7.39 at its highest, I don't see that. I honestly don't see that. I think we might have another slight adjustment, and it'll be very, very minor.
Despite a significant increase in gas prices over the past few weeks, Bastian says there's no need to panic.
There's never a need for consumers to panic when it comes to whether or not we'll have sufficient fuel at any one of the brands in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. All of the brands, Esso, Rubis, and Shell, can handle any consumer demand on diesel or gas within the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. There's never a need for consumers to panic when it comes to that. We have sufficient inventory at all of the different brands. I mean, we run a first-class operation here in the Bahamas.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
All right, well, one day after a public domain survey revealed the Prime Minister got a 60% approval rating among Bahamians, Free National Movement Chairman Dr. Dwayne Sands isn't buying it. Dr. Sands says they've been a disaster and says when compared to last year, the Prime Minister approval rating has dropped.
You can get statistics to say whatever you want them to say. But when we look at the numbers and we compare the numbers from 2023 to the numbers of 2022, when they had a significantly bigger sample size, almost 1,000 respondents, to 2023 when they have just over 500 respondents, what did we find? We found that if you look at the number of people that strongly approve Prime Minister Davis's performance, that it's dropped by some 20%.
Well, police are investigating reports of alleged sexual assault of an 18-year-old woman. The incident reportedly occurred yesterday aboard a cruise ship docked at the Nassau cruise port. Now, this is not the first alleged sexual assault to take place on a cruise ship this year. In April, a 34-year-old Indian man was charged with the rape of a 41-year-old woman from Cleveland, Ohio. Prosecutors say the woman was a passenger on the MSC Seascape cruise ship when she fell ill on April 17th and was taken to the ship's infirmary. Titus Debre of Bombay, India, is accused of sexually assaulting the woman while he was supposed to be tending to her. While we may not have to worry about Hurricane Lee, we're still keeping a close eye on the tropics. Lee, now a Category 3 storm, is still moving through the Atlantic and is expected to strengthen. While meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with a first check on weather. Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Natalia. Yeah, we are still tracking. Lee is still a potent system, Category 3, 115 mile-per-hour winds, moving towards the west-northwest. Rather slow, but it's expected to make a turn more towards the north over the next day or two before it passes just east of the Bahamas. It will continue to provide us with some very large swells. We'll start to see some of those swells affecting the southeast Bahamas this evening, and we will continue to see those seas deteriorate for the remainder of the week. So coastal flooding expected. We expect also some very large swells, dangerous rip currents. We're asking you beachgoers and your boat is to stay out of the water as the system continues to track towards on east of our area. Looking at its track, it's Category 3. They do expect it to strengthen some tomorrow. It's expected to get back up to a Category 4 and then gradually weaken as it continues to pull towards the north and into some cooler waters. Should pass to the east of Bermuda over the next couple of days. But make sure you stay out of the water, and we're asking you boaters once again, please do not get out there because it's going to get very rough over the next couple of days. That's a quick check on Lee. More in your total forecast later on in our newscast.
Still to come on Our News, the Grand Bahama Airport still on track for its 2025 opening. The Tourism and Aviation Chief says work is progressing. Plus, he's labeling the Bahamas as a diverse destination as tourism executives prepare for an Atlanta showcase. And an ode to a dame as Dame Janet Bostwick to be featured in a documentary highlighting women in politics. Soundbite, the exclusive story when Our News continues.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just those squeeze there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Parliament is prorogued, ending the first legislative session of the Davis administration. It's been 2 years since the PLP won elections, ushering in a new government. On October 4th, a brand new session of Parliament begins with a new Governor General, a new speech from the throne, and with it a blueprint for a new legislative agenda. Stay with Our News Nightly and follow ournews.bs for analysis and insight, and most of all, what's important to you.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners, it's essential to understand how technology can affect operational efficiencies. Modern communication relies on technology, and your customer service depends on communication. With proper tools like our fixed and mobile services, we help you stay connected. For solutions that work, ask the experts. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions.
In what we do at Best Brew, it really doesn't end when the customer purchases our product. We offer specialty coffee, tea, spices, and brewing equipment. We do a lot of our orders via website. We actually have the mobile service and the phone service and the internet. So having business in a box really kind of brought everything together for us and helps us to be able to provide the customer services that we pride ourselves on.
Don't spend hours sending individual messages to your customers. Use SMS messaging instead. With Cable Bahamas Business Solutions SMS messaging, you can send personalized messages to hundreds or even thousands of recipients instantly. It's quick, effortless, and cost-effective. Plus, it ensures that your messages are delivered directly to your customers' cellular phones, guaranteeing higher engagement. Save time and boost your outreach with SMS bulk messaging. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions at 601-8911 in Nassau or 602-8811 in the Family Islands.
A digital wallet that allows merchants and consumers to conduct transactions seamlessly on their cell phones. Our cashless solution is safe, easy, convenient, and designed to make life easier for all. And without Cable Bahamas Business Solutions, it would be impossible to do what we do every day.
I always envisioned Evolve being a cashless business long before COVID-19. Once I found Canoe, I realized they were the perfect fit for my company.
Now to an update on the Grand Bahama International Airport. You may remember the airport was totaled by Hurricane Dorian. Well, earlier this year, government announced plans for the new airport to be complete by 2025. But the announcement has many Grand Bahamians asking if that completion date is realistic. Well, Deputy Prime Minister and Tourism Minister Chester Cooper confirming that work is progressing.
There's a lot of work on a project like this behind the scenes. We are still on target for delivering the timelines in 2025 that we announced before.
He says the Grand Bahama International Airport is all a part of the Family Island Renaissance program.
The Family Island Renaissance program captures 14 airports: Grand Bahama, Georgetown Exuma, Naughty Lutra, Cat Island, Long Island, Black Point are going to be the priorities. And once it begins to roll out, it will happen very quickly.
Officials from the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism, Investments and Aviation are headed to Atlanta this week to showcase the country's #1 industry. The global mission is being led by Tourism Minister Chester Cooper and Director General Latia Duncombe and other senior executives. Cooper calling Atlanta a diverse destination, much like the Bahamas.
These missions have been really important to really get the word out that we're open for business. We're creating new partnerships. Atlanta is an important market for us, as is the entirety of Georgia. It's rich in culture, and the connections are profound.
Currently, there are 2 weekly flights from Atlanta to New Providence and a Saturday flight from Atlanta to Exuma. Beginning November 5th, the carrier will increase service to Nassau, Exuma, Abaco, and Eleuthera ahead of the holiday season. Cooper stressing the importance of tourism missions, insisting they drive tourists to the Bahamas.
This is going to be the last major mission we're doing in the U.S. market. We are going to do other promotions. We're going to do other launches, but we have made these big and grand, and they have been an opportunity to showcase our art, our culture, our music, our food, our libations, and we have infused into all of them a cultural component.
Alpha Phi Alpha's General Board of Directors meeting held at the Grand Hyatt Convention Center this past week was the first of many partnerships between the fraternity and the country, according to Alpha's General President, Dr. Willis Lonzer III. The General President says the fraternity is strongly considering hosting more events in the Bahamas.
If you're not aware, the Divine Nine in organizations as a collective represent 2.5 million people directly, and really indirectly about approximately 7 million people that we impact through influences of either through family relations or organizational relations. So the potential is there. It's been touted that we're the second largest influential group outside of the Black church. So we recognize who we are, and we're looking for an opportunity to come and partner with the Bahamian people.
And with 3 chapters in country, Lonzer says Alpha Phi Alpha is looking to increase their efforts and make their mark in more tangible ways.
The key is that we have the people of the Bahamas on our radar, and we're looking for ways to consider, not just for a couple of years or one event, but how we, from a long-term planning perspective, can keep this in our purview as we consider options, not only for meetings, but even building more infrastructure in your community.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, it appears as if we may be able to breathe a sigh of relief as Hurricane Lee has shifted. Greg is back with more in the forecast.
We recap the national soccer team's match against Puerto Rico, and Jonquel Jones and the Liberty are in the WNBA playoffs. Don't go anywhere. Our sports is coming up next.
Also, an influential woman in politics set to be featured in an upcoming documentary. Our Marlena Leonard has the exclusive when our news continues. Stay with us.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. So you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just those squeeze there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Parliament is prorogued, ending the first legislative session of the Davis administration. It's been 2 years since the PLP-1 elections, ushering in a new government. On October 4th, a brand new session of Parliament begins with a new Governor General, a new speech from the throne, and with it a blueprint for a new legislative agenda. Stay with Our News Nightly and follow ournews.bs for analysis and insight, and most of all, what's important to you.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners, it's essential to understand how technology can affect operational efficiencies. Modern communication relies on technology, and your customer service depends on communication. With proper tools like our fixed and mobile services, we help you stay connected. For solutions that work, ask the experts. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions.
In what we do at Best Brew, it really doesn't end when the customer purchases our product. We offer specialty coffee, tea, spices, and brewing equipment. We do a lot of our orders via website. We actually have the mobile service and the phone service and the internet. So having business in a box really kind of brought everything together for us and helps us to be able to provide the customer services that we pride ourselves on.
Don't spend hours sending individual messages to your customers. Use SMS messaging instead. With Cable Bahamas Business Solutions SMS messaging, you can send personalized messages to hundreds or even thousands of recipients instantly. It's quick, effortless, and cost-effective. Plus, it ensures that your messages are delivered directly to your customers' cellular phones, guaranteeing higher engagement. Save time and boost your outreach with SMS bulk messaging. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions at 601-8911 in Nassau or 602-8811 in the Family Islands.
A digital wallet that allows merchants and consumers to conduct transactions seamlessly on their cell phones. Our cashless solution is safe, easy, convenient, and designed to make life easier for all. And without Cable Bahamas Business Solutions, it would be impossible to do what we do every day.
I always envisioned Evolve being a cashless business long before COVID-19. Once I found Canoe, I realized they were the perfect fit for my company.
Today's sports update is sponsored by Michelob Ultra, distributed in the Bahamas by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits.
This is our news. Welcome back. The Bahamas men's national soccer team falls to Puerto Rico. JJ and the Liberties prepare for the playoffs. Here's Tage Adderley with a check on sports. Tage?
Thanks, Ataya. Good evening. Happy Monday. It's a new week. I'm Tage Adderley here with some sports. The Bahamas national soccer team began a new window of the CONCACAF Nations League on Saturday, playing against Puerto Rico at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. Things did not go their way. Team Bahamas got out to an early lead 1 minute and 54 seconds into the game thanks to a goal from Wood Julimus. Gerald Diaz tied the game up for Puerto Rico 6 minutes in, and they took a lead 16 minutes in and never looked back. Diaz and Joel Burgos led Puerto Rico with 2 goals apiece. Tough outing for Team Bahamas. They don't have too much time to lick their wounds. They're playing Guyana in Guyana tomorrow night. Be sure to check right back here for the results. On to the hardwood. The WNBA season ended over the weekend. Jonquel Jones and the New York Liberty will begin their quest to win a championship this week. The WNBA playoffs are on, and Jonquel Jones and the New York Liberty are in a hunt for a championship. JJ had 19 points and 9 rebounds yesterday as the team fell to the Washington Mystics behind a buzzer beater from Brittany Sykes to lose their last game of the season. With the loss, the Liberty finished the season with a 32-8 record, good for first place in the East. The Liberty have dominated the competition all season thanks to the inside presence of Jones, along with the shooting of Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu, who broke the record for three-pointers made in a season on Thursday night. The Liberty's first round series begins on Friday night against the same team they lost to yesterday, the Washington Mystics. That's all for sports today. I'm Tage Adderley.
Still ahead on our news tonight, our Marlena Leonard gives us an exclusive look on the set of a documentary that highlights influential women in politics. Dame Janet Bostwick is one of the featured faces. And nice conditions outside the Our News studios this evening to start off the work week. Greg is back with your extended weather forecast when Our News continues.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. So you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just those squeeze there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Parliament is prorogued, ending the first legislative session of the Davis administration. It's been 2 years since the PLP-1 elections, ushering in a new government. On October 4th, a brand new session of Parliament begins with a new Governor General, a new speech from the throne, and with it a blueprint for a new legislative agenda. Stay with Our News Nightly and follow ournews.bs for analysis and insight, and most of all, what's important to you.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners, it's essential to understand how technology can affect operational efficiencies. Modern communication relies on technology, and your customer service depends on communication. With proper tools like our fixed and mobile services, we help you stay connected. For solutions that work, ask the experts. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions.
In what we do at Best Brew, it really doesn't end when the customer purchases our product. We offer specialty coffee, tea, spices, and brewing equipment. We do a lot of our orders via website. We actually have the mobile service and the phone service and the internet. So having business in a box really kind of brought everything together for us and helps us to be able to provide the customer services that we pride ourselves on.
Don't spend hours sending individual messages to your customers. Use SMS messaging instead. With Cable Bahamas Business Solutions SMS messaging, you can send personalized messages to hundreds or even thousands of recipients instantly. It's quick, effortless, and cost-effective. Plus, it ensures that your messages are delivered directly to your customers' cellular phones, guaranteeing higher engagement. Save time and boost your outreach with SMS bulk messaging. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions at 601-8911 in Nassau or 602-8811 in the Family Islands.
Is a digital wallet that allows merchants and consumers to conduct transactions seamlessly on their cell phones. Our cashless solution is safe, easy, convenient, and designed to make life easier for all. And without Cable Bahamas Business Solutions, it would be impossible to do what we do every day.
I always envisioned Evolve being a cashless business long before COVID-19. Once I found Canoe, I realized they were the perfect fit for my company.
Welcome back to our news. A nice evening on this Monday as we had lovely weather to start off the work week. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is back in the Weather Center with a first check on weather. Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Natalia. Good evening again, everybody. On the final check on weather, we are very active in the tropics. We have a couple of systems out there, 2 hurricanes actually. We have now Hurricane Margot. That was a tropical storm over the last couple of days. A couple of systems are going to watch off the African coast that we got to continue to monitor. There's a very strong tropical wave moving just to the west of the Cabo Verde Islands, and there's an even stronger one coming off of Africa. That one is the one that we're going to continue to watch by the end of the week for some high chances for formation as it moves into the Atlantic. And then, of course, we have Margot, 75-mile-per-hour winds moving towards the north. It's going to be a fish storm staying out there. Eventually, by the end of the week, we expect the system to weaken and move into the far North Atlantic, cooler waters. And then, of course, there's Lee. Lee has spared us somewhat, but we are still anticipating some very strong, dangerous surf and very large swells be affecting the islands, beginning across the southeast Bahamas as we speak. Those swells will be moving into the central and northwest Bahamas over the next several days. So coastal flooding, coastal erosion, and of course, if you're traveling along those coastal roads on the eastern side of the islands, especially the Atlantic exposures, it's going to be very rough. Seas are going to be very large, anywhere from 12 to 14 feet affecting those islands. So the glass window bridge will probably be impassable. So if you have to do anything before crossing that bridge, you better do that now, because as the weekend progresses, system will continue to conditions will begin to deteriorate. As that system moves into the Atlantic, as I mentioned, a very high chance towards the end of the week for formation. We'll continue to watch that one as we move the peak of the season. Boating for Central Islands, small craft remain in port. I cannot stress that. Dangerous rip currents, stay out of the waters, please. The winds are going to be out of the north to northeast, 10 to 15 knot, seas anywhere from 3 to 5 feet near shore, but they're going to be building 8 to 10 feet along the Atlantic exposures and some very large northeasterly swells. Tide is presently high. Will be low at 1 a.m. in the morning. Southeast Bahamas, stronger winds down there, north to northeast winds, 50 to 20 knots, 5 to 7 foot seas, but they're going to be anywhere from 12 to possibly even up to 14 feet in some very large swells. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, beautiful weather with just a spotty shower or two in the forecast, but those swells. Those are the conditions we're going to continue to monitor for the next couple of days. Once again, boaters stay out of the waters. Beachgoers, please don't get in the waters. It's going to get very rough out there. That's a look at our weather. Back to you, Talia.
All right, thanks so much, Greg. Well, our very own Dame Janet Bostwick is going to be one of the featured faces in a new documentary highlighting influential women in politics in the Americas. Our Marlena Leonard was on set for her interview this morning and brings us the highlights.
The Inter-American Commission of Women is working on a new documentary titled Breaking the Mold, exploring the history of women's political leadership in the Americas. Our very own Dame Janet Bostwick was selected as one of these influential women to be featured. Organization of American States Bahamas representative Phyllis Barron.
The aim of this project is to amplify the voices of women around the Americas as they speak of their experiences and their role in political leadership.
The documentary features women like the former president of Costa Rica, Laura Chinchilla, former president of Chile, Michelle Bachelet, and other women who've acted as trailblazers for women in politics in the Americas. Barron says with all of her accomplishments and influence, Dame Janet was an obvious choice, having been the first woman to serve in a number of major roles in political leadership in the country.
Dame was selected among many of the other stunning women because in the Bahamas, as we would all know, Dame was actually the first woman to be elected to parliament, and she was also the first Attorney General and acting Prime Minister in the Bahamas. So here we go. She brought a lot to the table, not only for the Bahamas, but for the entire region.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
All right, thanks so much, Marlena. And of course, to see that story again, you can visit ournews.bs. And thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.